I think that what they talk the most about is their feelings of, a lot of them said, I was happy before. I felt I was a happy person before, but now cycling, I didn't realize how much happier I could be. A lot of them talk about their mental health, how much it's improved because they're outside with the sun on their face and the wind in their hair, and they love it, right? And we know exercise is so good for us. All those endorphins, and you get stronger. And I think when women get stronger, they feel more confident in themselves.
Welcome to That's Her Problem, the podcast where women who lead, connect, and rewrite the rules get real about building community. The challenges we face aren't always the same as everyone else's. But here's the truth. A city that's good for women is good for everyone. I'm your host, Patty Weens. First of all, if you're doing the video version of this episode, I apologize. It's humid here today and I have no control of what's going on here. The good news is that the intro is short and you won't have to look at it for long. Today's episode will take you on a different route than the previous episodes. Oh no, we're still talking about bikes. Don't be silly. But today's theme is about creating community, and more specifically, a community for women over the age of 55. My guest is Sarah Gravelle McKenzie. She's 71 years old and living proof that potent potions come in tiny bottles. Sarah has more energy than most people I know and is driven by the desire to make sure that women belong, even when the world starts telling them that they're irrelevant. As with our previous episode, we have a little voice memo from a listener at the end, and I hope you stick around to hear it. It brought tears to my eyes instantly and made me feel like all the work I put into this podcast is 100% worth it. If you have a message for me, I'd love to hear. For me or for the listeners, just go to pattybikes.com and click on podcast. There is a link right at the top for you to leave me a message. Now let's talk to Sarah. So it turns out I know a lot of Sarahs, and I'm here with my second Sarah, cycling with Sarah in Winnipeg. We're in the studio, and she is the star of Cycling with Sarah. Welcome to That's Her Problem, Sarah.
Thanks, Patty. I'm really happy to be here.
You know, it's interesting. I think I heard about you from an article in the newspaper. And Ian said to me, you got to talk to her. You got to have her on your YouTube channel back when I had just first started my YouTube channel. And I think we started following each other on Instagram and became what my friend calls pocket friends because we only saw each other on our little phones. But one day I met you in person and I'm like, oh, you're so little.
Is it Bikes and Beyond?
Yes, at our local bike shop.
Yes.
And I was like, you have such a big personality, you know? And tell me a little bit about Cycling with Sarah.
Cycling with Sarah came about, I retired 8 years ago, and I started riding on my own. I got back into riding because I had the time. And so I was really developed a passion again for cycling. I'd always cycled, but I really had the time and the energy. And so I was going further and longer distances. And about 3 years in, I realized maybe I want to find some people to ride with because I was always by myself. And so I reached out to a couple of local bike groups, and there were just so many barriers. Either my bike wasn't the right type of bike, maybe I couldn't keep it fast enough, minimum speed, and it was just barrier after barrier. There were sometimes references maybe to my age in a subtle way, and I remember feeling so frustrated. But I sort of tucked it away. I thought, I'll just keep riding. And then in 2022, Bikes and Beyond, the general manager, Catherine White, approached me and asked me if I wanted to apply to be a Live Ambassador.
Okay, so Live Ambassador is...
Well, Live is the only major cycling brand, bike brand, that is totally dedicated to women. So that was an instant interest, right?
Right.
And so I had to do a proposal. What I would do, because their mission is to get more women on bikes. So how would I do that? And I knew from my own personal experience, I would start a club, a cycling club for senior women with no barriers. You could ride any bike. You didn't have to be a speed demon on the bike. It wouldn't be long distances. The goal would be to get women back on their bikes and to create a space for people to rediscover the joy of cycling. And so that's what we did. I got accepted, I wrote my proposal, and then that was in 2022. And then in February 2023, my former coworker, Rose McDonald, who's now our co-founder, she'd retired. And we were hiking and skiing, and she was wondering how she was going to fill her time. So
So you filled it for her.
So I shared with her what I was doing, and instantly she said, I'm in, I'll help you. And from that point on, we just sort of did it all together. So, yeah.
I remember the first time I saw the Instagram post, and you had for sure like 20 women that came out for the first meeting that you had.
Yep.
About that.
Yep. We were sending out flyers, and we were going to community centers, and the media was so supportive, lots of radio and TV, and I kept worrying, what if nobody shows up to our launch? And 60 women showed up to the launch inside the store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
and so explain, how old do you have to be? What? Because there is that.
Yes.
I know I'm not allowed to be there yet,
Not
but
yet.
just in a few years.
55 plus.
Okay.
I would say the average age is probably 65, but there's a range from 55 plus, and the oldest rider is 72 right now. So I was vying to be the oldest, but, you know, a couple of ladies beat me. But yeah, we started out with 18 full-time riders and one chapter, the Northeast. And now this year we will have our third chapter launching in the West. We have our South chapter, and we have 80 full-time members.
Wow.
And 60 women on the wait list. 60 women plus.
60 women plus waiting for the chance to belong to this cycling club with no barriers.
Exactly.
Okay. So what kind of bikes are you seeing come out to this?
Everything. You know how used to have your Canadian Tire bike that was in the shed for a long time. Women are pulling those out of the shed. And one lady came out, she hadn't ridden in 27 years. And she got on that bike and she did it, and she was so proud of herself.
Wow.
Flat bar bikes, road bikes, cruise bikes. We let e-bikes, of course. There's no barriers. If your knees are bothering you and you ride an e-bike, ride your e-bike. Everything, every type of bike imaginable. We had a trike out once. We started the first year, and it's sort of end of May till September. And when that first year was wrapping up, the 18 ladies said, well, we don't want to lose contact, because it had become so much more than cycling. It had become like a community, a family. And these relationships that they developed, they didn't want to let go of. So we thought, well, let's just start a hiking and skiing club. And so we went through the fall and winter with snowshoeing and skiing and hiking and fat biking and kept everybody connected. And then it keeps growing. I mean, the theme that you hear over and over again is, when I retired, I lost my social network. We spend so much time at work, and those are the people you see all the time. And everyone says, well, we'll stay connected, but the common denominator is that work. You might keep some of those friends, but you don't keep it all. And you lose your schedule and your routine. And then over and over too, Patty, I was surprised. Women said to me how invisible they felt. And so it got me thinking, do you remember when you were little and you were on a baseball team, or if you took dancing and you had your uniforms? You belonged. And it was a visual that you belonged to something. And so that's the dream of having custom cycling kits. That got me going, thinking, I don't want people to feel invisible. So Live Cycling Canada and the bike stores, as well as Pine Ridge Hollow and Scattered Seeds, became our sponsors, and we got to design our custom cycling kits. Yeah,
I've seen them, and I'd like to know about those tutus. Weren't there some pink tutus
there
at
were.
some point?
Well, we did an ice cream and tutu ride last year, and riding through the neighborhoods, people were waving, cheering, and it was like it made everybody feel good to see, all of us out there.
Yeah,
in our tutus.
I would like you all to come to the Fancy Women Ride. By the time
Yes.
this podcast drops,
it will be already past the
Yeah.
fancy women ride. So I
Yeah.
want to see these pink tutus on the fancy women
pretty
ride.
funny.
Not to mention the Taylor Swift friendship bracelets that you wore today.
From my granddaughters.
I love it. That's so great.
And my bike earrings.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
great. But was your life always about bikes, or was there some time in between there where you were kind of just focused on other things? Who is before cycling with Sarah?
I mean, I loved bikes as a kid. I got into cycling when I was younger and as a teenager, but then I went to post-secondary and became a mom and a full-time worker. And I've always volunteered. I've always been physically active, whether it's gyms or classes, dance classes or whatever. But it was really, I would say, when later in my 40s that I got back more, looking at my bike more and deciding I wanted to go back to that because I love cycling.
Mm-hmm.
I like the freedom of cycling. It does make you feel like a kid again.
Yeah.
And for me now, I mean, I taught my children to ride, but I was involved in teaching my granddaughters to ride, and I go riding with them. My granddaughter, who is 12, be 13 soon, she did her first 100 kilometers last summer.
Wow.
She trained, she's caught the bug, and she gets up early, sleeps over, and we set that alarm for 5:15, and she's up and ready to go.
Wow, that's so cool. So now your daughter too, or just your?
She's more of a casual.
Oh,
My daughter's
okay.
more of a casual rider, but
for now.
For now.
Wait till she turns 55.
Exactly. But it's the one granddaughter in particular, Juliet, who she's caught the bug.
Oh, amazing.
I know. I love it. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
experience to be able to do that
Yeah,
as a grandmother.
Right, exactly. And that freedom, right? I met someone the other day who was telling me about the freedom she feels when she feels like the wind on her face
Yep.
and just the open road. Are any of the women sharing that with you, that they're feeling that feeling of freedom again?
I think that what they talk a lot the most about is their feelings of, a lot of them said, I was happy before. I felt I was a happy person before, but now cycling, I didn't realize how much happier I could be. A lot of them talk about their mental health, how much it's improved because they're outside with the sun on their face and the wind in their hair, and they love it, right? And we know exercise is so good for us. All those endorphins, and you get stronger. And I think when women get stronger, they feel more confident in themselves. So it helps them find their voice again.
What about the feeling of building community? I find that a lot of people think that advocacy is something you have to do at City Hall. But I feel like what you're doing is a kind of advocacy for women, for community. How do you feel that you're setting the table and having these women sit at your table?
I think what I've done is I've by starting it with Rose, again, I couldn't have done it without Rose, and that's our first sort of community and family, Rose and I. But we've given them a space, and always our vision from the beginning was, it's not just cycling with Sarah, everybody owns it. So there's that sense of connectiveness. We refer to ourselves as cycling sisters. Everybody has a say in how they want things done and offer ideas up. We have an event planner who does a lot of work of our community organization stuff together. We do donation campaigns for 4 community organizations every year. Main Street Project, Manitoba Shoebox Project, Rap for the Cure, and this year Willow Place, a domestic violence program. And I think that builds a sense of community, right? So everybody has these shared values, and we've all come together to do that. It's pretty phenomenal.
And once a week?
Well, we have 6 group rides going every week between all our chapters.
Okay.
So
but do you go to all of these 6?
I will do 2. I lead the Tuesday and Thursday rides in the Northeast chapter. And right now I think we have our West chapter leader's been injured, so I'll be going out there to help out there as well. So it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But on days that we're not riding or leading a ride, Rose and I will be out scouting routes or just riding for the sheer joy of riding.
Exactly.
You know?
So are you riding like 7 days a week right
6
now?
to 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long do you go for?
I would say on average, like an average day would be 40 to 50. And then on the weekends, when the traffic is lighter and it feels safer, then we will venture off, and that's when we do our 70 to 100 plus rides.
Wow. And this is all in groups again.
No, Rose
This
and
is
I will do
just-
those long ones. We had small groups last year. Ladies came and they've caught the bug, the passion, and they wanted to train. So we trained with them. And there was a group of 5 that did their 100-kilometer last year.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great.
For safety during our rides, it's around 15 women plus myself and Rose. And it limits where you can, well, you know very well how limiting trails end.
Yeah.
And there's only so many streets that you can go on safely with a large group. If there was 4 or 5, but not with 15, it's just not safe.
Right.
So, yeah.
So last year I had some of your women join me on the Fancy Women bike ride. I remember I got an email. I just found out about this today, and all I have is a cycling kit. Is that fancy enough? Because it's the Fancy Women bike ride where people wear dresses and whatever they want, right? And I said, your cycling kit is fancy enough. Please come on down. And as we were riding, we had a bit of a confrontation with a rider, with a driver actually, who wasn't happy that we were on his street and wanted to cut off the group of women. There's women and children with flowers on their bikes, wearing dresses and hats and playing Taylor Swift. And this guy was so angry that he came after us and started yelling, "Get off my street. This is my street." And I was so nervous because here are these women and children riding together. And this man is absolutely going berserk. And I felt so responsible for them. You know how it is, right?
Absolutely.
If you're the lead, you're feeling responsible.
You are responsible in many ways, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is a street that was closed to traffic. This is Lyndale Drive, where, it's a bike route. So we get to the end, we pull up to the rowing club, and we kind of gather ourselves, and I try to take sort of a pulse of the room. And I said, "How's everybody's feeling here?" And they're like, "Good." Okay. Who does the street belong to? To all of us.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay, everybody's all right.
It's the power of the group together, right? When you're riding, I mean, a lot of the women, I think that's one of the key things that has them reach out is they don't feel safe alone. So whether it's, traffic issues or just simply being a woman alone in a neighborhood maybe they don't know so well.
Yeah. On my YouTube channel, one of the things that I have done is created routes. So I film a bike route to show people, because
I've
a lot
seen
of
them,
time,
yeah.
well, and a lot of time as a woman, you see the map and you go, "Oh, I don't know where this is going to go. What kind of street is she taking me through? This doesn't always look like a bike path," right? So I film the routes to show people what it looks like, so that when they are trying, they can see, "Oh, okay, this looks okay." Because as a woman, like you said, right, you're not always sure. Have you had times in your group that you're riding together that you felt threatened?
Not when we've been out in our groups, not in a large group, because a lot of it's on multi-use paths and very quiet streets. But when we've gone out in smaller groups, like when we were training some of the women for 100, there was a very angry truck driver, Alberta plates, and and he almost hit me, and I was so fired up, because again, you feel responsible. I mean, I was up front, so he was going to take me out, not anybody else, but it was like I was so angry, and he didn't miss a beat, didn't mean anything, and I was like, yeah, it's scary. Yeah. And when I rode alone, those 6 years I rode alone, and I would go out at 5:30 in the morning, right? And I'd be gone for hours, and I know my family felt nervous, right? So I would sort of check in every so often and give them my route as best I could, that I didn't veer off suddenly. But yeah, sometimes it was like listening to your sort of spidey sense. It was like, I got to turn around. This doesn't feel safe.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you not riding in traffic?
We do quiet streets. This summer we're going to do. We're going to try and introduce the groups into a little bit more streets. Like I think one of the routes we want to do is Henderson Highway out to Lockport.
So that's on the north side of the city,
We're going to do it from the arena, Hodnott Road, and do that. It's about maybe 16 kilometers. And just get them used to it, the sort of the buzz of traffic. And we always say with our groups, right, the group as a whole has to feel comfortable. So we're going to slowly introduce it and see how they do, because most of them will not ride on streets. They don't feel comfortable. And I don't blame them.
Well, you are 70 years old now, and you have more energy than I did in my 30s, I think. I know you think.
I was going to say, sorry, Patty. You seem pretty energetic to me.
I feel like I too was revived by the bicycle, you know.
Yes.
I think we all have that age in between where we kind of forget about the bike. Do you feel like the bike is giving you all this energy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what it's like. You get on the bike, if you wake up saying you're in a bad mood or something's weighing on your mind, once you're on that bike for 10 minutes, it's all solvable.
It's all gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not a big deal.
If I ride my bike in winter, I started a couple
Yes.
years ago, and I commute to work, and it's 45 minutes. And there's days when it's really bad out, and I take the bus like a grown-up. And if I have to take the bus 3 days in a row, Ian will say to me, okay, tomorrow you are riding your bike.
You need to get back on the bike.
You need to get back out there. Because I get so grumpy. So I'm like, okay, I look outside, it's minus 25, it's not looking good, but I get all dressed, and by the time I'm on my third pedal, I forgot everything, and everything is okay again.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I remember there were days when I wouldn't want to go out my bike. And I would just say to myself, go ride for 10 minutes, and if you want to come home, you can.
Yeah.
And of course, I never went home.
No.
Because it felt so good to be out, right?
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about in your social media about mental health and how the bike is phenomenal
Yeah.
for people's mental health.
You know, I was riding here today, and I passed so many angry drivers. There was 3 incidents where they could have hit me very easily. And I thought, why are you so angry? You know, and then I realized sometimes it's not our jobs that are really killing us. It's our commute. It's being stuck in a car. So I find this interesting, this relationship that you have with Live Cycling. They are the only bike brand, and they're not sponsoring this episode,
No.
but we are going to talk about them anyways.
Yeah.
They talk about how they designed the bike to sort of fit a woman a little bit better.
Yep.
And you had some really exciting news from Live Canada.
I did.
And can we talk about that?
We can. As a Live ambassador for the first 2 years, I mean, that was wonderful, right? And they would support our rides and help us with things. But this year, they decided they were going to change their ambassador program. And instead of having almost 40 ambassadors, they were bringing it down to 20. And then they were going to select 3 cycling clubs from across Canada to partner with. And Cycling with Sarah was one of them.
Wow.
And we were in the community builder category, and that is so special because that's what we've tried to do, to build a community of women, but to take our community and live within the communities that we all live in. So it's like a double community. And what an honor. And I think, you know, how people say senior women are invisible. We're not invisible.
No. You're just getting started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's like, that's what we all need. We need community. And when you're at work, you have that community.
Yeah.
If you have a church you belong to, you have that community. But if you don't, you have to find it. And cycling's, well, you know, the cycling community is pretty phenomenal.
It really is.
It
I
is.
always say to people that if you're feeling lonely, grab that bike that's been in the garage, that Canadian Tire or
Yes.
Walmart bike,
Yes.
and go for a ride. And at the first set of lights, the next person that stops beside you, just say, hey, nice bike.
Exactly.
And that's the last you have to worry
Exactly.
about.
Yeah.
Because there are so many awesome people. And everyone is a little different. And everyone is so accepting for the most part.
For the most
Right?
part,
Yeah.
right? They're just happy you're on a bike.
Yeah.
Right? It
you don't
doesn't
have to
matter.
belong to a cycling club
No.
with the speeds and the jerseys. And it's fun to have a fun uniform, but you don't.
You don't have to have that to
No.
enjoy being out on a bike. And everybody, most cyclists know that. They just want people to ride.
Yeah.
Right?
They just want to ride together.
Yep.
Do you have lots of conversations when you're riding on your bike with
among ourselves or
Yeah.
with other people?
Just yourselves.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
we're, you know, because riding in a group is very different. We sort of go from single file to double file formation, and again, to keep everyone safe. And so when we're in double file formation, you know, you get to chat. We have a halftime break always to eat. We like to eat. We like to find
Snacks.
bakeries.
I'm looking forward to being 55.
And then at the end of the ride, there's lots of socializing, you know. And a lot of the ladies, the goal is everyone rides once a week. And so we have contests that we run. And this year, the contest will be to encourage women to reach out to other women and do groups of 4 of them and to enter into contests. So it's to help them reach out and meet other women as well, maybe from the different chapters.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And get more people on bikes.
Exactly.
Do you find that these women that are coming out to these group rides are starting to use their bikes for everyday use for other reasons?
I think a lot will talk about they'll take it to the grocery store or they'll go visit their grandchildren and they take the bike. And they didn't think of doing that before, which is pretty cool. Or they'll take it, I know, I do winter cycling as well, and when I did Zumba, I would ride my bike to the Zumba class, and people were like, you rode your bike? I mean,
And you're like, you drove here?
and then
Did you drive to the gym?
And then I do Zumba and get back on my bike, and so people, they see, they watch.
They
right?
do.
And then they go, oh, if she can do it, maybe I can do it.
And I know that you were recovering from an injury.
Yes.
For 9 months.
9 months.
Right.
Yeah, severe back problem, spinal stenosis, and the pain was awful. I was walking with a cane. I could not walk. Cycling last year was very painful for me. So to swing my leg over, so oftentimes, you know, if we stop, I wouldn't get off my bike because it hurt too much. But I've been doing a lot of physio and have been working very hard. And I think it's because I'm so determined to get back on my bike, right? That kept me going.
Right.
And people are counting on me to get better too, right?
Yeah.
They want to cycle, and I'm feeling so much better. I found a great doctor and a great physiotherapist, and that was the key. The key. The physiotherapist has made a huge difference.
No, you made a huge
Wow.
difference, right? He told you what to do, but it really was you.
Yeah, he will say you did the work. You're right. That's exactly what he would say.
Because, you know, I'm sure he has a lot of patients that don't.
You know, had done a little bit of strength training over the years, but it was never a focus. And for my type of injury, it was all strengthening up the posterior chain. And so a couple of months ago, he started me on some serious strength training and got me doing some heavier lifts and really pushing hard. And it seems I have a body that's meant to do these things. It's
At 70, almost 71.
yeah. And so now it's a competition with myself.
Right.
How far can this body go?
And what a great example to your kids and grandkids.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Right. You
Yeah,
think
it's never
about
too
how
late.
cycling is a really good sort of example about strength as you age, but throwing in powerlifting will just take it to the next level.
I love it. Powerlifting with Sarah is next.
Can you imagine?
Yes, I can. But you know, you're such a great example of, I had this idea and I just did it. I didn't wait for someone to do it for me. I tried to find people who were going to let me fit in, and they didn't have room for me. So
Yeah.
I decided I was going to do it.
Yeah.
I really can relate to that.
This podcast is brought to you by me. I wrote a book called That'll Never Work Here. It's coming out on October 28, and you can pre-order it from wherever you get your books. You can also support me by going to pattybikes.com/podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, tell your friends, and make it their problem too.
And you know what's funny is you talk about people underestimating you, right? And initially, I think I underestimated myself. I think I'd been, retired for a bit and I'd forgotten I'm a tenacious personality. I looked up the word tenacious, right? And it's determined and persistent and unwilling to give up. And that was it. And I'd sort of forgotten that. And then cycling with Sarah, it clicked all back in. It was when I can do this. So when people were putting up barriers, or people were subtly or not so subtly going, no. I mean, Liv was so supportive. My contact at the time, a young woman, Vanessa Lebrun, she was wonderful. This young woman mentoring this older woman, right, to create something for senior women. And so I had lovely support. from Catherine White at the bike store, but there were people out there. Like I said, subtle but not so subtle sometimes. I remember reaching out to an organization, and it was a woman who'd worked with seniors in a community for a long time. So I reached out to her and said, this is my idea. This is what I'd like to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And she point blank said to me, it'll never work. She said, if you got 5 people, consider yourself lucky, but I don't think you'll even get that.
So it's funny because I was going to ask you about the Thank You Amy section of the show, and you just told me everything. So I usually ask the question, was there a time when you were underestimated and you turned that situation into an opportunity to succeed and even excel?
And that's what happened.
That is exactly it. Have
Yeah.
you sent her one of your latest Instagram posts with your waiting list?
I'm sure. I know the community she lives in. I'm sure she's seen her newsletters.
Oh, that'll never work.
Yeah, she was. I mean, she just said, I think you're expecting too much from senior women. And that's what drove me crazy.
Yeah.
They'll never come out. Senior
Right.
women don't want to be that active. Really? Yeah. So.
Maybe they just haven't had the opportunity. They haven't had that seat at the table.
Exactly.
Right? And now they're feeling empowered. You're creating this sense of empowerment as well.
And when you go out and talk to people, like talking to people and asking if they will say support our club, whether it's through, contest prizes or whatever, right? The women-owned businesses, they're phenomenal. The thing they love the most is to talk about mental health. Yes, physical health, but it's the mental health, the social connection. And they all say, I want something like this when I retire. And I find it's with the men, 9 times out of 10, they talk about their moms.
Oh.
And they wish there was something for their mom. And I said, there is.
There is, actually.
Oh, well, she wouldn't do it. It's too late. And I'm going, no, it is never too late, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's been an interesting sort of experiment, talking to different people and different businesses. And I think the reason we got underestimated is the ageism that's out there. It's quite prevalent.
Well, a woman in her 70s.
Exactly.
There's 2 things against you right there
Exactly.
in this day and age.
Exactly. And they just, nope.
And you're like, watch me. Hold my beer.
Exactly.
Hold my bike.
Watch me. And like having Rose too, that was a phenomenal, that was sort of the beginning of the sisterhood. We call ourselves sisters, cycling sisters. And her and I, so we would sit for hours and plot and plan and dream. And then there'd be the people that were not so kind. And it just made us stronger. It was like, no. You don't get to tell us we can't do this.
But you had that person with you to say, when you're
Exactly.
feeling discouraged, don't. Because I'm right
Exactly.
here and I believe in you.
Yeah, and we did it for each other. And yeah, because it's like when you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you think, oh my goodness. But yeah. And now, with Rose and I, now we have this group of women. Lots have stepped up to be ride leaders and ride sweeps. And so there's like this larger core of women that support us and share the work.
Yeah.
Because we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
And then there's all the other ladies who are just loving it.
And so is there a charge to join?
No charge.
No charge.
No
So
charge.
you're being completely sponsored. Every time I see your Instagram, you're like, we got a new sponsor. It's like you just decide, I'm going to approach people. And if they say no, I'll just move on to the next person. It's their loss.
And it's not even their loss. They just have a right to say no.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe it doesn't work for their business. But I think because what we're sort of doing and promoting, everybody has a mom and everybody knows they're going to age. We all age.
Yeah.
And
we're lucky.
If we're lucky,
Yeah.
right? And it's, I think, giving back to the community. And we do a brochure every year. And all the businesses that support us with maybe a silent auction prize or a cycling contest prize, they're in the brochure. We bring them and say, we're acknowledging you. And social media, I will do shout outs to them. And I just think we've been very fortunate.
Yes.
Very
well, no,
fortunate.
you've been working very hard.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a full-time job now that you've retired, isn't it?
It's the best unpaid full-time job
Yes.
I've ever had.
You don't have to tell me. I know exactly. Okay, well, we're going to do a quick little rapid fire, a few questions
Sure.
that we always do at the end of the show. And First one is, if you were a bicycle, what kind of bicycle would you be and why?
That's it, like one of those tricky interview questions. I think a gravel bike. Well, one, my name is Gravelle, so we can shorten it to gravel.
Right.
But no, a gravel bike is really, it can do anything.
Okay.
It can do the road, it can do the gravel. It's an all-purpose, take me anywhere type of bike. I think that's what I'd be.
Yeah.
A sturdy, strong gravel bike.
I love it. And you could be Gravelle the gravel bike.
Exactly.
What do you think is your superpower? What have people said to you? Because I have a feeling people have told you that you have a superpower.
It's funny. I mean, sometimes people will say things and you go, oh, you see me? I think the common theme is tenacious. That to get this going, I've just been very focused and very determined because I'm very passionate about it, like you are, right? Very passionate, and that passion just sort of keeps me going. And when people say you can't, or roadblocks come up, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to find another way. And that's it. I asked my daughter, I said, what do you think my superpower is? And she said, sort of the same thing. She said, you put yourself out there, Mom. You put yourself out there and you keep going no matter what if you believe in something. And I went,
My work
you.
here is done. If your daughter can say that about you, what else do you need?
Exactly.
It means that she's been watching you and you've been a good role model.
Yeah.
You know, I think of all these women that are looking up to you. You must get messages saying, oh, you're so inspiring. It makes me want to do this too. It's
pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice to get those messages on Instagram from people I don't even know. Or, you do a post, or I'll do a post about loneliness or whatever, and they'll go, I needed to hear that.
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
sometimes you wonder, right? You're out there. You put yourself out there on social media and you wonder, is anyone listening? Or do they think
What's
it's all
the
whatever?
point? Yeah.
And then someone sends a really nice message and you go, that's why.
This is why I do what I do.
And my daughter's funny. In the beginning, that sort of underestimating myself, and I was so nervous, and should I do it? And then, of course, went full bore, 150%, and 3 weeks later, she said, so is this now the time to tell you I told you so, Mom? I knew you could do it. And I went, you're right.
That's the best.
Yeah.
You're a great, supportive kid.
Yeah.
The next question in the rapid fire is, I would like you to recommend a book by a favorite female author.
That's a really interesting question. And the author I like is Melody Beattie. And she's an American author. And I read one of her first books, and it was called Gratitude. And it changed how I look at a lot of things, and I've kept the practice going. I would say at least 3 times a year I start a gratitude journal, and I'll do it for 30 days. And I think it's very easy in people's lives to get bogged down with the day-to-day frustrations that aren't even that huge, but it can change your mindset. And so gratitude and doing a gratitude journal, I think, is a powerful tool for people to get into doing. And that book was pivotal for me. And then she wrote it was a meditation book, and it was called Journeys of the Heart. And every day there was a quote and a meditation to reflect on. And it too was really powerful. And that's why I think it's come into cycling with Sarah that we talk a lot about kindness and gratitude. Mm-hmm. I think it all started back from that book, from this author.
Yeah, for sure.
Really powerful. I don't know if you've ever done a gratitude journal.
It's one of those things that you start and then you go, okay, that's good now. And maybe doing it once in a while for like an extended period of time.
You do it for 30 days. It's hard. It's, we're so busy, but 30 days. And then sometimes if you're having like a crappy day, you look at your gratitude journal and you go, oh, yes, I have so much that's good.
That's great.
What I'm doing this year, I saw it on social media actually, and it was once a week, you get a jar, and once a week, just write down on a piece of paper the best thing of the week that you remember, and you put it in every week, and on New Year's Eve, you take that jar and you read all 52. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing that this year.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book right now by this comedian. It's called This American Woman, and it's Zarna Garg. She is a comedian from Mumbai who moved to the United States and went to college. And she started being a comedian because she kind of ran out of things to do, and her kids were growing up out of the house, and she was funny, but she didn't believe in herself. And for her birthday, her daughter gave her a jar with notes from her and her siblings and all of her friends who believed in her.
Now that's powerful.
Yes, and so I think of that too, you know,
Yeah.
if you save your notes and you remind yourself what
true.
a powerhouse you are. You know, you are such a powerhouse, and you're really showing by example to women in this third act that they're called, right?
Yeah.
That you can be the brightest star.
You can do things you didn't even think of. I mean, because you have the freedom now.
Yeah.
You've got the time to
Right,
pursue
right.
whatever dream it is you want and take chances and to be a role model for your daughters and your granddaughters. And people watch. People pay attention to what we all pay attention. And I think, you know, going back to the gratitude and kindness, we live in a very difficult time. We only have to think of the politics of the world or having come off COVID. And I think people somehow think they've been given permission to be really awful and say awful things, or the power of doing it, keyboard warriors on social media.
They really need to get on their bikes.
They need to get on their bikes, and they need to stop being so judgmental and just kindness. We need more kindness.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're talking on the break is about how senior women sort of fade in society. And you're playing such a big part in bringing them back into the spotlight. And their families must be so proud. They must be so proud of you and of, you know, their moms and grandmothers doing these things. Do you get some feedback about that?
I do. Sometimes I'll say I'm going to someone's house to pick something up, and her husband will answer the door, and she'll go, "Oh, this is Sarah. Oh, thank you for making my wife so happy." It's really lovely, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
You
Just
know?
when you think that, okay, I'm in my 70s, what do I do now?
Yep. Yep. And I think society maybe just diminishes women, right? And I think I like what we're doing with Cycling with Sarah. My perfect dream would be other communities across the country pick it up. But I think we're giving women a voice, senior women a voice.
So if someone is listening to this and they are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they want to start, what kind of advice would you give them? What's the first step?
I would just tell someone to set small goals, just to put yourself first. It's like, you know, you set a small goal. I'm going to be active every day for 10 minutes. Make it so you can't fail. Make it so easy that you can't fail. And when you start having those mini successes, then your confidence grows, and that 10 minutes becomes 15 minutes, becomes 20 minutes. And then that will give you the strength and the impetus to reach out and find your people, find your tribe.
I talk about that all the time too.
They're out there, and our women have branched off, and they've started, like, they're golfing together or they're doing other things, and it just happens naturally. And I think people feel so overwhelmed that they can't. It's too much. Start small.
Great.
So you can't fail.
And you don't have to do it every day.
No, I'm a believer in consistency. I think that works for my brain.
Yeah.
I'm a really good routine girl.
Yeah, I agree with you, but some people feel overwhelmed at the thought of, oh, I don't know if I can do this every day.
Maybe something as simple as 5 minutes of walking around your block.
Yeah.
It's a win. You've done it. Check.
Right. And then find a friend. Find a rose.
Find a friend. Find my rose. Yes, you can't have rose.
No, find your own rose.
Exactly.
So what's next for you? I mean, we know powerlifting with Sarah is coming, but where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. I'm posting a lot. I'm trying to be inspiring to senior women. I'm trying to encourage senior women about fitness. Again, sometimes it feels, you know, I'm at the gym and I'm doing my pose, but I think the message is, if she can do it, I can do it. If she can do it at almost 71, I can do it at 61, type thing.
I think that you are underestimating how much you are inspiring. You're not just inspiring senior women. I think you're inspiring young women too. And
That's
I'm so
lovely.
proud that you're
Thank
here
you.
and so
Thank
proud
you.
to have you as, a pocket friend and now a real friend.
You're now a real friend. Yes.
Thank you so much for
You're
coming.
welcome. It was wonderful to be here.
Yeah, great.
Thanks.
Well, here we are, cycling with Sarah.
How great is she? From last week's talk with Grecia and this week's talks with Sarah, I feel like I'm surrounded by amazing women on both sides of the generational wheel. The future does look bright. Thank you again to my Patreon supporters, Andrew, Michael, Nikki, Halls Emporium, Tim, and Luke. It's not lost on me that 4 out of my 6 financial supporters are men. It shows me that men are ready to hear about what women think and what women want. Oh, hang on. Let's see who this is.
Hi, Patty. This is Katja from Munich. I got into your podcast very recently, and I still have some catching up to do. But let me tell you one thing. There is a lot of note-taking going on here. So I just wanted to say thank you for your inspiring and encouraging work for creating community, even though there is literally an ocean between us. So all my love from Germany.